Well, as you can see, it's not a very nice day for fishing, but why we come out fishing when the weather's like this, Lord only knows, but we still all come, we still enjoy it, and as long as we catch a few fish, that's what makes us happy. And where we are today, there is a lot of fish to be caught today. The only disappointing thing is that normally you do catch a lot of fish in the 4 to 6 ounce bracket along here, but today we seem to be catching a lot of fish around about the ounce, and as I look along, that's just about the average size being caught. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you all about baits. Let's go indoors and have a bit of warmth. Right, as you can see, I've got a lovely array of ground baits, additives and everything all laid out in front of me. What I'm going to do, first of all, I'm just going to run through the majority of these and tell you a quick rundown on what I think they're best to be used for and what I've had most success using them on. Right, Expo, probably the most popular ground bait on the market in the summer. So good for tench and carp, just can't believe it. Always been very popular, and anything that's as popular as that has got to catch fish, because people won't keep buying it unless they're catching fish on it, and that really does work. The next one is iPro. It's similar to Expo, except that it's called a different colour. It's more of a Sweetcorn based one. It's exceptionally good for big fish. Another very popular one. Grilled Hemp, I use this with every ground bait that I use. It's the hemp in it, the sort of crushed hemp, the shell and all that, really does act well in the ground bait. It makes it fizz a hell of a lot, so it's ideal. One of my favourite ones, a really important part of my setup. Right, now we come to Supercup. Probably, again, one of the most popular ones of the lot. It's ideal for lakes, for bream. It's ideal for canals, any shallow water, and it goes exceptionally well with the one I've got next door to it, Special. Mixed together, just a little bit of this, because this Special is a real cloud. It's probably the finest ground bait out of all the ground baits that are made. It's a real cloud one, and it's another one that most of the ground baits I use, I do intend to put a slightly little bit of Special with it. Very good ground bait, always bit in my bag. Next one is Superlake. It's the old Viver that used to be called Viver. Now they changed the name to Superlake. Very popular one. It's similar to Supercup, very similar, but if anything, it's just a slightly little bit heavier than Supercup. Superlake, another very popular one. Next one, we've got two here together. I've got Secret and I've also got World Champion. I put these two together because they're very similar ground baits. There's not a great deal of difference in them. If anything, Secret is slightly heavier. Very popular with anglers that use a lot of blood and joker. Very popular with them. And when you get deep water, if you've got water at 8, 9, 10 foot deep, and there's a little bit of flow on it, and then Secret is ideal. It's bream, tench, carp, barbel they've put on it, but I think it's good for roach. Found it very, very successful. With these ones, again, both of these, I would say, add a little bit of Special. Two nice ground baits. The next one, Natuur, my favourite ground bait. I think out of all the ground baits on the market, I find this the best one of the lot. It's a little bit darker than the rest. It's a little bit blacker. It's hemp based. It's a nice bit of hemp in it, and I just find it brilliant all round. I use it with all my Bloodworm mixes. I use that. I also even sometimes use it on canals in shallower water, especially waters where I intend to use squat and pinky. And I know that bread punch works on the venue because it's a little bit coarser, and I find it absolute brilliant ground bait. My favourite. If I go up to the end here again, now we've got Supercorn Red. It's one that we produced ourselves. It's basically it's on the same lines as Expo. It's for tench and carp and bream during the summer. very good ground bait. Again, it's always caught a load of fish when I've used it, and over the moon with it, can't moan at all. The next one along is Sensas Magic. I do like that a lot. I find that's probably, out of all the Sensas ground baits, that's the only one I use, and I find it very good for bream. It is definitely a good bream ground bait, and I must admit sometimes I use half this Supercup here and half Magic. Nice ground bait, and I know that some of the boys in Delcat, Johnny Daniels and quite a few others swear by Magic, and their results have always been good, and so I must admit I do like that one. Moving along this one, I've just put here a bag of brown crumb. It's just a nice fine brown crumb. It's one that we happen to produce ourselves, and that's another good ground bait. We use brown crumb quite a bit, and it's ideal for mixing with any one of your actual Van Den Eynde or Sensas ground baits. And when I go to Ireland, which I do quite a bit, of course you use a hell of a lot more ground bait than you intend to use in England. So to keep the price down, I always might, if I go to Ireland, I might use 3 bags of this to 1 bag of whatever Van Den Eynde I decide to use. So it's always nice to have a bit of bread with you. Next one is River Ace. This is a nice bronzy ground bait. It's a nice goldy bronze. Very popular ground bait. A lot of people like to use that in a feeder. It's very popular to use in a feeder, and that's got a nice bit of hemp in, and it's a nice ground bait. It's got chub, barbel and bream on it, but a lot of people say it works exceptionally well for roach as well, and it's a river ground bait, ideal. Nothing, you know, I use it reasonably regularly, and I must admit I've used that in Ireland to great success, and I've also used it in a feeder when it's been very fast. But I must admit, most of my feeder fishing, I just like to use a coarse brown crumb, but if it's pushing through really hard, then I will put this in my feeder. The next one I brought along, this is Turbo X. Now Turbo is for very deep water, deep and fast water, and you'll find that this one is very popular in places like Ireland or anywhere where the water's deep and fast. That's when they use that. Deep, it's a real good heavy ground bait. The next 3 I've got laid out along here, as you can see, I'll hold it up a little bit, is Vanille. Now Vanille, that's an additive ground bait. I think that when you fish in England, a bag like this size, should last you for at least 6 or 7 trips. As I think with these additives, like I've got Bloodmeal and Brasem, I always believe with these additives, just like sugar in tea, anything that's sweet like these, if you intend to put too much in, it's like putting too much sugar in tea. So I always like to be, if anything, be on the mean side, but it's a very good additive for bream and carp, Vanille. Next one, long Bloodmeal. Well, Bloodmeal is ideal to add for your tench. It's tench and perch, they love it. If you're fishing for where there's a lot of tench and perch, a bit of Bloodmeal in your ground bait definitely helps. Again, busy Bloodmeal, it's not so sweet. You don't have to be so worried about how much you add into that. And then the last one, Brasem, if I pronounce it right. Again, probably the most popular additive there is for bream. Some people absolutely swear by it, and the smell, it smells absolutely gorgeous. And it works. It's got to work, because over the last 5 or 6 years, it's been so popular, and people just don't keep spending the sort of money they have to spend on this if it doesn't work. So Brasem, exceptionally good for bream. Now we come to the other little bits and pieces. Like I've got here, this is just a coarse white crumb. It's a very, very coarse white, very light. For bread punch fishing, it's what you've got to use. It's absolutely bang on for bread punch fishing. That is basically all that is for. Although, again, another use for it is during the winter, when the waters are very clear and it's cold, they use that in their feeder with a piece of white flake on the hook, and they find it very effective for that. Next, I've got some bread here which I will just liquidise for you later on and show you how that works. Here, I'll put this up the other end for a minute. I don't know how that got there. I laid it out of the way. Here is just a bit of Damp Leam. Damp Leam is, again, you add it to your ground bait when you really want it to go down to the bottom fast and dissolve quick. A lot of people think that when you add leam to ground bait, it makes it heavier and it takes the ball longer to break up. But it's the reverse. If you put leam into your ground bait, it goes down to the bottom quicker but breaks up quicker. So, but I'll show you a bit more about that leam later on when I actually mix the ground baits up. Now we've got grey leam. It's just a powdery grey leam. That's just for joker, just for putting a little bit on your joker. Along with, this is another joker leam by Sensas. Both of these are exceptionally good. Very good, the pair of them. Work really well. This is nice because it's just got a little spray on that you can just spray a little bit out. So it is very good, that. The other three items, I've just put this in because this is, I know you can't see what it is on the bottle, it's terrible, but it's been in my box. Like that is, my brain's gone for a moment. I'll come back to that, I can't think what it's called now. Just shows you the pressure. This is just one of the drawers. This is just a super drawer that I use. I've bought this along solely that. Well, what I do whenever I mix ground baits or when I start fishing, because I don't smoke myself, but if you smoke or you use soap in the morning, use aftershave the night before, or you've put petrol in your car, before I start fishing or do anything, I just put a little bit on my hands, just like that, and I like to rub it in. I'm rubbing that into my hands, as it can be any additive at all or any sweetener, but the whole idea of it is to get any human smells out your hand before you start touching your tackle or anything to do with fishing. I'll put that there, and I've just bought a tin of Sweetcorn along. As you all know, in the summer, Sweetcorn's exceptionally good for tench and carp, and a lot of venues we go to, you have to use Sweetcorn to get through the little fish for the bream, especially at places like Alton Water. So I've bought that to show you. What I have found, we do get different colours sort of Sweetcorn, but I've always found that natural colour, the yellow that it is, always works better than any other colour Sweetcorns for some reason or not. And these other two, now my brain's working again. Garlic. I've just bought garlic along because this has been in my box, so I've bought it out because I've just started to fish the Oxford Canal a little bit at the moment. And on the Oxford Canal, you always start off on the inside catching gudgeon, and for some unknown reason, if you put a little bit of something smelling of garlic juice in your ground bait, the gudgeon go potty for it. So I just brought that along, that's it. That's all I'm going to say on that, not too much at all. The other two things here are, this is turmeric, which I've got for dyeing my hemp, which I'll come back to in a minute and show you how to dye that. And the other thing here is Joker Red. Again, that's just for dyeing my hemp. The reason I've got them is that I like to dye my hemp to suit the bait that I'm going to use, so we'll come back to them later. So basically that's all just a rundown on a load of different ground baits. So what we do now, we get down to, I'll show you how to liquidise your bread, how to prepare your punch bread, and just a few little odds and sods. Well, as you can see, I'm just liquidising a piece of bread up for punch fishing. I'm just going to show you quickly how I do it. The only reason this is on top is because I've messed the liquidiser up over the years through extra use, so I have to make use of my punch board. But what I'll do, first of all you do is you get a slice of bread. I've already just pulled with the crust on, and if I'm going to use it on rivers, if I'm going to use it on a feeder or there's a lot of bigger fish about, I'll leave the crust on. and I've liquidised that up. If I tip that into the bowl, see how it's all come out? I'll put it out of my hand. That's nice and coarse. And the beauty of this, it's already a bit on the damp side. You don't add no water with it at all. So, but what I normally do, if I'm fishing a canal and it's going to be quite hard, what I intend to do, don't normally use scissors, but I'll use scissors today because I've got a pair handy. Just cut the crusts off, drop them into the bowl. Be honest, it's easy to pull them off. I thought I'd do it all nice and neat and tidy, and here I made a right mess of it. Just break little bits off and just pop it into the liquidizer. Normally a loaf of bread will do you enough for a couple of trips, but I'll put a fair bit in there. Put that much in there. Keep the kitchen tidy. Get the wife after me if I don't. Normally, I was going to try and talk over the noise of the liquidizer, but I won't. As you can see, that's only been in there probably, that's probably only been in there 4 or 5 seconds, and it's quite fine already. But if I want to get it a bit finer, just put it in. I'll put it on for a couple of seconds, and I'll try and keep my mouth shut. That's about the longest I've gone without talking, I reckon, today. You see, it's come out quite fine, and that's simply all you do for liquidised bread, and just drop that in there like that. I ain't going to bore you and do a load of it because it's the most boring job you can have, but you see, if you feel it, it's on the dampish side, and you don't have to mix water, and it holds together well. You don't squeeze it really tight, you just enough to hold it together when you throw it. See how lovely and white it is? It really is nice, and when you use the crust, it's just a little bit dark. If I hold the two in, you can see this one's a little bit white. It's only where I took the crust off. Right, and the other thing, I know when people punch fish, they always say they do have a job to actually keep the bait on the hook. Now, there's one thing that you always do to keep the bait on the hook. Important too, when you get your bread for the hook bait, is that you get one, some bread you buy, it's got lots of sort of air pockets in it, it's sort of air holes in it, but this bread is nice and tightly woven. I know it's a funny way to talk about bread, but there's no air pockets in it, and that you'll find stays on the hook well. It's medium slice, and what you do, you just keep it like that, and all you do then is you take it over and you put it in the microwave for 15 seconds. I'm standing at a funny position so you can see it. I normally do 3 or 4 slices, but just do one today just to show you. Pop it on, about 15 seconds, start it up, and then just standing, we've just got to wait. I know when you're standing waiting for a microwave, it always seems to take longer. I know when you're fishing on the bank, the time flies. So release, open the door. If I take the bread out, as you can see, the bread's now, it's on the warm side, and if I press it, you can see how nice and moist it is, and you'll find that'll be absolutely perfect. One other last little trick what I do, I won't cut it now, but if I just tear it in half, I always keep them in halves. The reason I keep them in halves, and I've got my board that a full slice fits on, but if you keep them in the bag, if I put them in the bag and they're wrapped up, I take them out half at a time, because as the bread gets in the sunlight, or even if it's raining, gets damp, it intends to not be so good for the punch. So I like to have 6 halves like that I can take out and leave each one out for, say, half hour or more. And that's how I keep my bread. And that's basically what bread punch fishing is about. Nice and simple way to go fishing, and nice and cheap. Right, as you can see, I've got hemp here. I've got 3 different coloured hemp. I've got red hemp, I've got bronze hemp, and I've got natural white hemp. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to explain to you why I've got 3 different colours of hemp and how I actually get them to this colour. First of all, I'll start off with the red hemp. You can see it's all split and it's nice and red. Now, if I'm using bloodworm or red maggot, I think it's best to feed the same colour, a red bait. And as you know, even during the winter months, fish respond to hemp, and sometimes you only need feed hemp. So this is why I do take a lot of time in my hemp. And how I actually dye the hemp is, I've got my saucepan here. We're just, if I put some water in the saucepan, I just walk over to the sink and pop a little drop of water in. Drop of water into the bowl. Right, we've got the water. Now we're going to make pretend. If I tip the hemp in, I'll put it in there like that. I don't know why I've done it like that, but I just did. But I've put the hemp in the water. We're going to make pretend that I've just cooked it and just took it off the cooker, and it's still boiling hot, the water. All you need to do then is just get a little drop of this Joker Red, just tip a tiny drop in it, not even a quarter of a teaspoonful, just a very false fraction of it. Water still red hot, stir it in, put the lid on, leave it for 3 or 4 hours, or leave it overnight, take it next morning, we come in, and if you just tip it out through the sieve, and you'll find you've got red hemp. Now, I've done that. Now, I'll put that out of the way. I'm not going to go through all that again, but to get the bronze hemp, as you can see, that's lovely, isn't it? How can a fish resist that? To get the bronze hemp, you do exactly the same procedure, but all you do, you can see I put turmeric, is just, instead of take that lid off, we've still got the red stuff in here. I won't tip any in because I'll ruin my red stuff, but all you need to do, when it's boiled, the water's still red hot, just get a teaspoonful, this is where you do need a bit more of this, a teaspoonful of turmeric, tip it into the water, stir it in, put the lid back on, leave it overnight again, and you'll find it'll come out beautiful. I know that old Ivan Marks, he always used to say to me, whenever you use casters, always turmeric your hemp. And I've been turmericing my hemp with bronze maggot and casters for a long time. And then again, just the pure white hemp. All you need to do with that is just cook it. And I use hemp when I'm fishing the bread punch. I like to fish a few grains of hemp in all the time. And they're the free hemp, and that's what I do to me hemp. I believe that sometimes just through a little bit of messing about with a bit of turmeric, if your bait's slightly different to anybody else's, it gives you an edge. And that does look lovely. You can see how that shows up in the water. So right, I've done the hemp, and I'm going to go outside now in the lake, and let's mix up some ground bait, and we'll try and see how it all works, all the different ground baits work. Well, what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to show you a little trick that I use for when I'm bream fishing, using ground bait, how to get everything dead accurate. I've just mixed my ground bait up and sieved it through. I've done that nice and quick. There's my ground bait all ready. We've put a few casters in, just as if we were fishing, and a few squat. Lean over and get them. Just a few nice squat. So we mix them up. Now what we've got to do, how to get your bait dead accurate in the same spot every time. You don't want it actually right in a sort of 1 square yard. If it's in a long line, just spread out, but you want it as accurate as possible. So I'm just going to show you a little trick now that I use when I want to be really accurate. Here's the ground bait all mixed up ready. So if I walk to the bank, just take this little green thing, I'll tell you what that is in a moment, and me funny looking catty. So just walk over to the bank, and let's just move this rod. Let's lay so I don't tread on it. Right, now I've got my bowl and my catty, all the ground bait's mixed up, and I want to get it really accurate. So let's, as you see, I've got a piece of string on the catty, and if I another loop and put it on the handle, the old idea is when I pull it back exactly the same distance every time. And to make sure that it goes the same distance every time, I've got a little scoop. So I just scoop it in, get a nice same amount every time, put it in my hands and squeeze a little ball. put it nice and round. The ground bait I've got mixed up here is Supercup with just a little bit of magic with it. Find that very good for lake fishing. So then you put it in, same size every time. And what you do first of all, before you fire it out, you look for a marker. So if I look over there, and there's one tree that's a little bit smaller than the others, and I aim it. So if you just pull it back the same distance to the string, let it go, and you see that will go. If I do exactly the same again, one little scoop, pop it down, squeeze it. I know. That's it. Put it in the pouch again. Then throw it out. And every ball goes exactly the same place, which is what you've got to be reasonably accurate. They go the same distance. They might be a yard to the right or a yard to the left, but that's nice. That's how you want it. And then the next thing, I've got my rod. And normally what I do, but I won't do it today, so I'm a bit lazy, is I have a bomb on there instead of a feeder. Now, get the reel, and you've got to always make sure you've got a reel with a line clip on for ledgering. And if I throw it out, the wind's caught it. Now that time it never went bang on line where my ground bait was. It was a little bit short. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to reel it in, and I'll just flick it a little bit harder next time. That was just a little bit short of my marker where I'd exactly put the ground bait. So let's try again, a little bit harder. That's better. Now that's landed bang on where the ground bait was. I'll let a little bit of line and I'll put my finger on like that. Now, if I take the spool off, and remember I'm only fishing for bream, put the line clip on. I've got my line clip on, put it back. Right, now I can reel in. Now every time I chuck out, that feeder with that feed in is going to go in exactly the same place, because I just chuck out just enough to make it reach the line clip. And it doesn't matter if you overchuck, because the line's £4 and you never get broke up. So out we go again. Here, line clip, exactly the same place. So I know that every time I throw that feeder out, it's going to be on the same line. And we come. Right, I lay the rod down again. And I also know that every time I put a ball of ground bait out, if I feel they need an extra bit more than I'm putting in the feeder, I know it's going to be in exactly the same spot. So that's a useful little trick that I've been doing over the years and found it very helpful. So now I'm going to move on now. I'm going to show you now a few different mixes, how I mix my ground bait up. One I'm going to use Natuur, which I said is one of my favourites. I am going to use a bit of grilled hemp with it, and just a weeny teeny bit of special. So I'll start mixing that now, but as I said earlier on, just rub a little bit of this in my hand, just enough to get rid of any human smells. That's it. So right, if I put, I'll do a bag of Natuur. Let's put that somewhere so it don't get blown away, the bags. Just a little weeny teeny bit of special. Probably only 10% of special in there. 10% of special. And the grilled hemp I'm going to use, but I'll put that in later. So mix it all in together. Now, you don't put the water in first when you mix these kind. Just put a little weeny bit in at a time. Just a little bit. Mix it in really hard. I'm using a round bowl. You can't see me mixing it because of the depth of the bowl, but it's a lot cleaner and easier in these round bowls. You mix it in a little bit. So just keep shaking a little bit of water in. It's a slow old job, but it's a job that needs to be done. Just add water all the time. Now, normally, to mix this up will probably take me about 5 minutes, but we'll save you watching me for 5 minutes just putting my hand in and out of the water. We'll miss a couple of minutes out and come straight back to it being wet enough. Now that's a nice wettish texture, yeah, that's just about, I've just add a little bit more water to it. Get it exactly how I want it. A little bit, now that's exactly how I want it. Right, next thing I'm going to do, if you feel that, that's nice and dampish. The most important thing is sieving it. Always sieve it, so I'll put a bit in there like that. Give it a good old shake, and all the lumps, rub them through. Just rub them through like that. A bit more. Sieve it and rub the lumps through. Get rid of the lumps. There's a few hard bits left on there. Just bang them off. I like to leave it on the bank because that's handy for the old birds. They do like to eat grilled hemp. Now, I'll put the grilled hemp in. I've put a fair bit of grilled hemp in, probably 25% of that bag, and rub it through. Now this, I do like to try and rub through all the bits of shell and everything. Really rub it through, get rid of all that. Mix that in. Now the remainder of this. Right, and that's mixed up. Mix it all in together with the grilled hemp. That's lovely. And now, how you can tell whether a ground bait is going to work or not is you should be able to, I hope this works, I know it will though because I've done it, if you squeeze a ball really hard, like that, you should be able to rub your hands and see how it's all breaking up. It's rubbing and there's no lumps left in it, no doughy lumps. That means that is a good ground bait. That means that is mixed perfect. So, right, I'll put that there like that. And that's all mixed up. Now, let's just say for example that we're gonna, I don't think there's quite enough there to put about 9 balls in, but say for example we're going to put 6 balls in at the start, and we'd like them all to break up at different times. 2 to break up reasonably early, 2 to take say 35 minutes to 40 minutes to break up, and 2 to take even longer, maybe up to an hour to break up. Now I'm just going to show you how I'd go about doing that. If I throw the rest of this, no, I'll use this bucket here. The first 2 balls that I would mix up, let's make it look right, we'll put a few casters in, just a few. Now, if I was fishing for bream, what I would do, and I was going to use casters, just another little trick of mine, I'd get a few casters, I'm not going to get a great deal, just put them in the bottom of the bucket, get this bottle, or anything, normally something a bit bigger, and smash them up, just squash them all. Can you see what I'm doing? I'm breaking them up. That's a lovely little bit of smelly juice there. Now, done them ones, break them up like that, and tip them in the ground bait. By doing that, I've got to smell a nice smell and mix it in like that. You know that they're going to float to the top, a few of the shells and bits and pieces, and plus the fact the flavour of the casters will give the ground bait a bit of flavour. So we've done that, and just a few squats. I'll only put a few in because we're just playing about, just a few squats in. Right, that's it, that's lovely. Now let's get down to mixing it. Right, what I do, I'll only have to mix 3 balls up because there's not enough ground. The first ball I will squeeze hard, like that. Right. Now that ball there, if I squeezed it really hard, you see it's nice and solid. That should take probably about up to 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes to break. Now, the next one I want to take a little bit longer. Probably another 20 minutes to break up. That's keeping the fish in the swim a lot longer. So I'll squeeze this one. Really squeeze it nice and hard. Now, to make that last longer, before it breaks up, all I need to do now I've got it squeezed hard again is to put my hands in this water and put a sort of a film on it, just a film on the outside. See how wet it's getting, and you put a sort of a coating on it, which makes it of course take a lot longer to break up. Look at that, that's lovely. A nice sort of shot. Lay that one there. I've got one ball, half hour to 40 minutes, one about an hour. Right, how to get the next one to break up? The next one I want to break up in about 10 minutes. So the way I do that is get Damp Leam. Just put a little bit on the sieve. We'll put it just in one corner. We don't want to use it all. That's it, that'd be enough for one ball there. Put a little bit there, just get a little bit of lean, only just a little bit, so I only want one ball. Pop it on there, just run it through the sieve. That's it. Sieve out of the way, mix it in. A lot of people seem to think that if you do mix lean with ground bait, it takes longer to break up, but it don't, because of the texture of lean, it breaks up a lot quicker. And then just squeeze this ball, it will go in very heavy and go to the bottom very quick. And then we've got a ball there that's going to break up very quick. And with the little bit of ground bait that I've got left, I'll just put one ball in where I'll just only squeezed it a little bit, so that one will practically break up on the surface. So here we are. So if I go through them, we've got that one there. If I put the lean one there, and then I've got them in order, that would be a lot cleverer, wouldn't it? I've got the one there that I've only just pushed together, which were at the top and cloud, just one of them to act as an attractor. Got one with lean in, which hopefully will take round about 10 minutes to break up. This one here, which would take anything from 30 minutes to 40 minutes to break up. And this one here that I've put the coating of water that will take an hour or more to break up. I've done these tests in a tank indoors, and I can guarantee you that they do work. So that's my mix for when I'm fishing close in, when I want to catch fish on the bloodworm, when I want to catch roach and that, and fish squat and cast on the bottom. And I found that a very good combination. Well, I've got my balls of ground, but I'm mixed up. I'm going to throw them in, we'll explain and see what's happening underwater with them. That's just the cloud one, just really to attract the fish into the swim. Now the next one I'm going to put down, well, all these three balls now that are going to go in reasonably heavy and just go straight down to the bottom. The first one I'll put in, cool, hear that for a lovely plonk, that's exactly how I wanted it. Now that's going to go straight down to the bottom, and that one should take, with the lean that I've put in it, should take about 10 minutes to completely break up on the bottom. The next one I'm going to pop in, same place hopefully, bang on. Now that one is the one that I just, with no leaming, that I just squeeze together, which will probably take around about 30 minutes to 40 minutes to break up on the bottom. It will go straight down to the bottom. Now this last one is the one that I put the coating on, that I put a nice, wet my hands, put a coating on. If you put that one in, and now that one will take about 40 minutes to break up. Now all them 3 ground baits, them 3 balls that I've put in, will break up at different times, and hopefully I shouldn't have to feed again now for at least an hour and a half to 2 hours before I need to put any more ground bait in, because sometimes you put ground bait in on top of the fish's head and they shoot away, they shy away from it, they like it on the bottom and they feel happy when it's on the bottom, they don't want nothing falling on their head. So they are the 3 that we've put in, and they've just got to leave them there. There's not much more I can tell you about them, only just see what happens to them with the under the water. Just wait and see. Got here is Supercup, probably 80% Supercup, 20% special. Now this is a nice cloud ground bait. As you can see, it's beautiful. As I've demonstrated with the other one, you squeeze it and it just breaks up in your hand again when you rub it out. This is a surface ground bait, a cloud ground bait, the sort of ground bait you use on canals and shallow lakes. So if I squeeze it together, I'll throw it out. Now that has gone in, that has hit the water, and you can see it's just clouds coming off it, and the ball is just floating on the top for a second, and now it's just started to sink slowly, and there's all bits coming off it, and it's created a lovely cloud. I'll do it again. As you see, it's a nice fine ground bait, a nice fluffy ground bait. You just squeeze it together. You don't have to squeeze it too hard, just a gentle, the size of your hand like that, and you can give it a nice throw. It holds together out to where you want it, and if you look, you can see it now, it's actually floating on top. All the bits are coming, the cloud will be coming off it, and now it stays there. Normally stays there anything 5-10 seconds. Now it's still laying on top, bits coming. Now it's just started to sink very slowly with lumps. And as it's going down, it's going down, there's all pieces coming off it and a nice cloud all round it. You'll find that will go to the bottom, and as it goes to the bottom, it will completely dissolve and it will spread out with an area of roughly 18 inches over your swim 2 foot in an area. And what happens is, it's a nice light ground bait, and as the fish come in and feed on it, you get the small particles coming up and down off the bottom all the time, which of course it encourages more fish. So that is the cloud one. Now if I was fishing in a slightly deeper water, say we're fishing in 8 or 9 foot of water, I could get away with using the same ground bait. All I would need to do would be is just to bend myself down and just add a little drop more water to it, not make it quite as fluffy, just a little bit more water, and I can squeeze it a little bit harder. And by squeezing it a little bit, I've been a little bit wetter, if I throw that out, now, as you can see now, that hasn't floated on the top. That has gone down and that is sinking slowly, and it's bits coming off it as it's sinking all the time. But because it's a bit wetter and I'll squeeze it slightly harder, it will get to the bottom in the slightly deeper water, and when it gets to the bottom in the deeper, it will still be slightly breaking up and still be in a little piece of a lump, where if I'd have used the dry stuff in the same depths of water, it'd have been all complete cloud before it got to the bottom. So that is basically the softer ground baits, the cloudy ground baits. So if I put that down, and then I'll show you how the punch crumb works. Right, so simple to mix up punch crumb. Always remember to add the water to the ground bait, and then you get the right texture. Just a very, very small amount of water. Just a little bit with a flick of your hand. That's all you need. It's such a small amount. It is really no more than a tablespoonful of water in a little, especially in a small amount of ground bait. Just mix it in. Get your sieve. We'll do it in this big bowl just to save time. Get rid of all them lumps and just rub it through. You must rub it through. There we are, all rubbed through. I'll put it back in this bowl for you. And as you can see, it's bang on. It's as simple as that and easy as that. The most important thing to remember with punch fishing, very little water, very, very dry, and you must sieve it. And that is how to mix punch crumb up. Right, now we've got the punch crumb. As you can see, it's a nice, coarse, very light ground bait, and all you need to do is just get it, a little gentle squeeze, and as you throw it in, it simply hits the water, hardly any splash at all. It floats and it completely dissolves, and you'll find it will go down into a big cloud, and it will, by the time it's about a foot to 18 inches below the surface, it will be one complete, it will just be like this. It will be floating all over the water in a large area of probably maybe 2 foot it will cover, and there'll be little specks of this coarse crumb coming up off the bottom and sinking slowly, probably for as much as 2 to 3 minutes. Perfect, perfect. So easy, just keep it on the dry side. A little simple squeeze and a throw. And that is just the punch crumb. Very effective ground bait. All cloud, hardly any feed in it at all. Right, I'm just going to do a mix here. I just thought I'd mix this one up. As you can see, it's Supercorn red. It's a natural coloured ground bait that turns red when you add water. I'll put a little piece in there and you'll see what a lovely colour red it goes when you add a small amount of water. You can see I'm throwing the water on and you can see it going red as I'm flicking the water on. There it all goes, just starting to go red now. A little bit more water. Yeah, look at that, that's just starting to go a lovely bright red. And the old tench and carp, they do love red ground baits. Again, you mix it all in like that. If I hold it up, you can see how it's started to go red. Look at that. The only thing that's not gone red is the hemp, because there is a nice little bit of hemp in it. A little bit more water. Look at that. Now that is a lovely colour, isn't it? Beautiful colour. Just a fraction more water. Mix it all round. You should really use round mixing bowls, but I've got so many bowls everywhere that this is the first one I've put my hand on. Again, like that. Put it all down one end of the bowl. Get my sieve. Rub it through the sieve. Get rid of any lumps, that does. The reason you rub it through the sieve, because if you get doughy bits in it, the fish will eat the doughy bits and they fill themselves up so easy. And the whole idea of ground bait is to attract them, not to fill them up. There we go. Get rid of any lumps. Look at that. Now that is a lovely coloured ground bait. See how it will, if you squeeze it up, The beauty of this too, you can squeeze it up very light so it breaks up, and you can also squeeze it very hard and make it go to the bottom. It's a nice all-round ground bait. So, put it back. And that's Supercorn Red. There we are, all finished. Lovely stuff. Well, I've enjoyed myself today. I hope that I've shown you everything there is to know about baits. I don't think I've forgot anything, but I can say I've honestly enjoyed myself today. There's nothing that I like better than messing about with ground baits, maggots, and looking after me bait. Thanks a lot for putting up with me for an hour or so, and I do hope that you find a lot of the information I've tried to tell you very helpful.